March 10th committee meeting of the Natchitoches Parish School Board. I would like to ask everyone to please observe the 11th commandment, which is thou shalt silence your cell phone. We had a workshop 2 weeks ago and I did not make that announcement and it was like cell phones gone wild. So please silence your phones. And tonight, as you can tell, we have a whole new setup. We were in limbo for a couple of months. And tonight is our first night with the full outfit and the new boardroom and the new amazing furniture. And tonight we have Mr. Ken Foy with us, and we would like to recognize him for this beautiful work and invite you to come up front. Would you like to speak a couple of minutes on?
Sure.
Yes.
My wife said, of course.
So this is Mr. Ken Foy, and he is responsible for the new setup that you see here. And what you don't know, on the back side here, we have chargers where we can plug the cell phones that should be silent. So we're very excited about that. So if you'll talk to us a couple of minutes about your vision and what made you...
Oh, okay. Boy, you look good. Wow. You know, this is the first time I'm seeing it with you behind it, so I'm wowing too. And as I was building it, this is the first time I would see it. It was in my head. I had digital pictures of it, but you know, it's just amazing to see it in real time. So you know, I'm amazed, just like you are, when I build something that comes from, I won't say nothing but a pile of wood, and then you just happen to see it. But I did come here, well, I want to thank you. I want to thank this community for believing in me enough to do this and to do this for you. It's easy to do things like this for people that you care about and love. After being in this community for 16 years and teaching the children in the community for 12 years, you have an attachment to it. But it was my pleasure to do it. I thank you. I thank you again for believing in me. I came here not to do this. I came here to see the superintendent maybe about building a different reception area, because I thought for Natchitoches Parish, you know, we need a great reception area to give a great impression. And the superintendent said, well, come with me. He introduced me to Lee Wascom here. I'd never met him before. And we talked about 5 minutes. He put me in his car, brought me to the city council chambers, and he said, can you make something like this? I said, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. And I know you thought I was just blowing smoke, but it looks better than the city council one. But he didn't tell me. He talked to a few people after, you know, and checked me out. And I found out, well, yeah, maybe he could do this thing. So in about a month and a half, something that was just a conversation turned into a reality. And again, I thank you, and I hope maybe I'll be doing a few more things for Natchitoches Parish. Folks, I'm glad to do it for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For those of you in the public who can't see the podium, there's a crest. This is Natchitoches Parish, and the parish is embellished, and it's on the front of the podium, and it's all carved out in wood. So stick your head around the corner and take a look after the meeting. It's great.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Thank you, Mr. Foy.
Yes, and thank you for what all you do for our district, for all our kids, for all these years, and we sincerely appreciate you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. Okay, and I do want the taxpayers of the parish to know that the previous furniture, we depreciated it to the very last cent. Like, we got our money's worth out of it.
10 years ago.
I do miss and then some. So, but I do miss the orange chairs anyway.
Oh, yeah.
No? Okay, we can bring those back. Okay, so next item on our agenda tonight, we have Miss Natalie Ducote, who is the third installment of our school spotlight. So she's going to come forward and share the great things going on at LP Vaughn Elementary School.
So I'm Natalie Ducote. I am the principal of LP Vaughn Elementary, the first school in the city's grade banded school system. We are the school of all the little people. That makes a lot of people very nervous. Dr. Eloy tends to jump in and jump out, but then he'll come back for a quick installment and then come back in. He says, oh my gosh, there's people everywhere. And that's what we are. There are people everywhere because we are a school of 676 students. I think we had 2 more register today. We also have 115 employees. So Central is very big, but we are right behind them. So when you make decisions for our district, there is a great amount of people inside this one building that you are making decisions for. And I say this every day, we release a concert every day at Carline. We have mastered our trade of getting 676 kids out of one place in 30 minutes. It is a very good process. And a lot of that goes into some physical improvements that we've made to the school through the bond initiative that the taxpayers passed a few years ago. So these are the 4 things that we're going to talk about today. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but we are going to look at some pictures of the physical plan of the school, the improvements that have been made. We're going to talk briefly about cluster meetings. That is your initiative with Miss Noel, and get to see some live pictures of what it looks like in our school. We are going to look at one of our 3 electives that we offer at our school. So the students in K through 2nd, so K1 and 2, rotate through music, art, and PE on a weekly basis. So they'll do PE one day, they might do art the next, but they're gonna go through PE 3 times in a week. And then just what I call the good. And it's just really my personal favorites of what makes being a principal of the Little People School the best. So this is the physical plan of the school. These are some of the improvements. This one that you see right here, the arrow pointing to the blue wall, to y'all that might be just the blue wall. Well, that thing used to be mauve. And just like the orange chairs that you used to have in here, we had this like random mauve colored wall. It didn't go with the previous school's colors, nor did it go with ours. So part of our bond money we used to paint these mauve and green, randomly green walls to reflect our school culture and our school colors. So our school colors are navy blue and red and white. So what you see on the floor is that navy blue strip of tile. At the start of COVID, we kind of had a blessing in disguise with Laura. I know you may not agree with me, but I was allowed to go, or Dr. Eloy allowed me to go to Ball Elementary, and I got to see how they were running a school at the start of COVID, because we had delayed start because of Laura. And I walked into their school and it was genius. There was a hallway with white tile and then lines of green tile where students stood. Well, what I was excited about is Miss Davis and I every summer order enough gym floor tape. We order about 1,000 yards of it, and she and I lay gym floor tape every year before they wax the floors, which by the middle of the year is coming up in places. And my custodians hate them because they have to, they just always have to pick up pieces of it. So when I saw this school in Ball, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the genius. So when we redid our floors, Mr. Wascom said a tile is a tile, whether it's white or whether it's navy blue, it doesn't matter to me. So he allowed me to pick these lines. So it's just clean and neat. When you walk in our back building, you really do feel like you're somewhere else. The awning that you see right here, this was 2 days before it rained and we got our roof. We now have a roof on this awning. Some of you missed my story. We have a teacher to get to PE on days when it's raining. She has to go all the way down the long hallway, through another building, and back down a long hallway. And on Monday, when it rained, she was so excited because she's like, I get to go underneath the awning at gym and the PE's right there. So it was the only spot in the school that didn't connect the new building that was established when North Natchitoches was remodeled to become LP1 Elementary. So this was a long time coming. You really can't see it, this one, because the sun, but we had an awning that Laura sent a big tree through. We had a hole that's since been repaired. But while we were repairing the roof, we repainted it. The poles on that are navy blue. So when you pull up to the school, it's just one cohesive look. And it just makes our school look fantastic. Ms. Palmer, these are our new playgrounds. These are our first and second grade. If you can, at the school, we have the architectural design for when they did change North Natchitoches to LP Vaughn. And what you see right there was always supposed to be a playground. It just never happened. All the playgrounds were in the back of the school, which is close to the railroad tracks. We have this wide open space in the front of the school. So we really started to utilize that space in the front of the school with the trees and the shade. So we have a fenced in playground at the front of the school where the old flagpole used to be. So that is for our first and second grade. Our pre-K students, they commandeered where kindergarten used to play, and we put them a brand new play set kind of in the center where kindergarten is. They asked to save these items, and they are coming up there this summer to spray paint them to get everything to match. And then this playground in the back is the brand new playground for kindergarten and what I call overflow, because that's 3 play sets and we have 652 kids. So we just sometimes need a little bit more space. What you can't see in the bottom picture is one of the things that I'm most proud of is on the compass rubric for a principal. I believe that safe and orderly is quite possibly the most important. You can't have a lot of learning if you don't have a safe and orderly school. Well, safety was a big concern at the back of our school because there is a railroad track and we do have little kids and they run wild and free. So this kept everybody on this side of the train tracks. So on that tree line back there, there is a metal fence that picks up from the corner of the building, goes all the way back, and then comes across. So teachers do not have to worry about kids getting around a corner from a playground or on the railroad tracks, what used to be a major concern. So all of that is kind of where we are. Bank of Montgomery donated us a flag for our flagpole that now has really cool landscaping underneath it. Our landscaping on the front of the school has been completely done. We were written up notoriously by the health department for a stain in our library, and we have since retiled our library, and we do not have that problem anymore. And then here's just another little snapshot of my really cool blue tile that I'm really proud of. Okay, cluster meetings. We have 2 instructional specialists at our school, Miss Weeks and Miss Stepp. We made the decision to do twice-a-week meetings with our teachers. They last 45 minutes. They get on-the-job professional development. We are a school with a lot of uncertified or currently in a program teachers. They need this support. They need to grow in their craft. And Miss Weeks and Miss Stepp help that happen with me and Miss Davis by their side. They get into the classrooms, and one of the biggest things that we're doing right now, which all those other folks that are in Dallas, they're learning about this, success criteria. So how does a 5-year-old know that I wrote something like I was supposed to write it? You asked me to write a question about what is my favorite sport, and I write a sentence, but how do I know as a 5-year-old that I did what I was supposed to do? Well, that's success criteria. So teachers develop success criteria. So what you see right here is a chart that teachers made. This was a question that teachers had to answer about how can students benefit by giving their peers feedback on success criteria. This is my favorite. I wish I could zoom in. This is a kindergartner named Jackson, and he has his 4 success criteria at the bottom. He has finger spaces. He started his sentence with a capital letter. He used words from the word wall, and he has punctuation at the end of a sentence. And he's 5, and he got a 4 out of 4. And he can look at his teacher and say, I know I did what I was supposed to do to get a 4 out of 4. And for a 5-year-old to be able to tell you that, that's amazing. And that's happening in every grade level at our school through the work of clusters. This is a little snapshot of our clusters. I don't know if you've ever met Miss Steph. She is quite possibly the happiest person I've ever met in my life. She is the cheer coach for Northwestern, and she is our personal cheerleader at LP Vaughn. Her and Miss Weeks are definitely a dynamic duo. They very much embrace cluster and a positive culture of clusters. They have themes. This was their Mardi Gras theme. But what's happening right here is a teacher giving in-the-moment modeling to the students, for the novice teacher is not certified yet. What you see right here is teachers rewarding other teachers for their hard work with a little gift bag. Okay, another example of success criteria, this is first grade. So that's a little snapshot for cluster meetings. This is our music classroom. Christina Ballard is our music teacher. She is a certified music teacher. We are really proud about that. This last year she came to me and asked me if she could order all this stuff for music, and we had the funds for it. And it's not very often that you see kids talk about, I really can't wait to go to music class. You know, they love PE, but they, like when they say, oh, I can't wait to go, it's my turn for the tone bars. So these are students, these are each box has a different pitch. What I told Ms. Ballard the other day is my child she was doing the gifted screening, and that is the test that they have to take, is identifying a pitch, a high and a low pitch. So think about the success that LP Vaughn students are going to have should they go through a gifted screening. As a kindergartner, their teacher is already teaching them about high and low pitch through the music class that we offer. We also have art with Miss Nelson, and we have 2 gyms where we have PE. All right, so this is the good. This is what makes the principal of the 656 kids under the age of 8 really exciting, because they get excited about the smallest things. It doesn't take a lot to make them happy, which is really awesome. If you want to feel better about your new hairstyle or your shoes, just walk down the hallway at our school and some kid's going to say, I really like your hair. You look great. Mr. Cody, I really like your shoes. So if you just need to feel better about life, we're the school to come do that, just because we have some awesome kids, but also because of the awesome things that we do to create a culture at our school. So this picture right here is when NJH hosted our pre-K students to go trick-or-treating. So our students walked up the hill in their costumes, just pre-K, and walked into the gym, and the NJH students filled their buckets with candy, and then they came back, which was amazing. This is our 2nd grade students that Miss Step lined this up. There is a Northwestern cheerleader who went to a tent school in Haiti. One of the first units that 2nd graders learn about is schools around the world. They learn about boat schools, tent schools, doorstep schools, and then their traditional school. So Ms. Step arranged for Emerson to come and talk to our 2nd grade as a culminating unit, and Emerson shared his experience of actually attending a tent school in Haiti. So that was really neat. That is definitely the good. This little friend right here, this is my friend every morning. He waits on me every single morning in a spot, and when he sees me coming, he stands up, sticks his hands up in the air, because he's going with me. That's how he starts his day, and I'm okay with it, because it helps him start his day. He is nonverbal, but on his Mardi Gras crew was this crew of the superheroes, and he was loving life that day, and he was loving being at school, and I have this picture is off of my phone. His mom knows. She's quite okay with me sharing all this with you. But he may not be able to speak, but he will let me know when he wants to see his picture on my phone. And it is every afternoon in Carline. He comes and he sees me coming, and he's gonna wave at me, and he does like this, asking for me to search my pockets, and it's a live picture, so he knows he can hold his finger on it, and he's gonna see himself moving around. And he just loves it. So that is the good. The other thing is Mr. Duncantail. This is Mr. Duncantail in the middle right here. Caleb is quite possibly one of the most well-behaved children I've ever met in my life. And he has been my principal's assistant probably 5 times, because he's cashed in his Cub Cash that he earns on a daily basis to be the principal's assistant. So he has a little name tag, and There's not a lot of errands that you can really give a 6-year-old, like as a principal, but man, we come up with some things for Caleb to do, and he is so excited. So this is everything that is LP Vaughn that isn't academics. But this is what kids get excited about coming to school. And so we promote these things as much as we can. So that's my good. So I enjoy my job very much. It's challenging, but very rewarding, and that's LP Vaughn. Any questions?
Thank you.
We have a couple.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Y'all doing the playground. Is the playground equipment, is it for all the children?
Yes, ma'am. So,
Y'all have playground equipment that is benefit all the children,
like,
special needs?
yes, ma'am. So all of the entrances to the playground equipment is wide with a ramp, so they can get onto the playground equipment. As for the slides and things like that, that would need the help of the teacher, but I will say that our resource classroom goes to on the front playground, that 1st and 2nd grade playground, without a lot of kids on the playground, and their aides and paras help them to the best of their ability. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was nice to meet you. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you, Natalie. Backtracking just for 1 second, just for the record, we're going to do roll call. I forgot we need a roll call. So Ms. Rebels will help us out with that right before the superintendent's report.
Mr. Dancy?
Here.
Mr. Multipliers?
Here.
Mr. Benefield?
Here.
Mr. Garner?
Here.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. Gedros?
Here.
Mrs. Broadway?
Here.
Mrs. Gaskey?
Here.
Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Phelps?
Here.
And Ms. Harvey?
Here. Okay, thank you so much. And now we're ready for the superintendent's report.
Well, first let me say thank you, Mr. Foy. I mean, it's his product is nothing short of amazing. It's just beautiful. I snuck in a few times whenever I wasn't supposed to see it. Mr. Walston also did and sent me pictures, but the finished product is just amazing. And then also thank you, Ms. Cody. It's always nice to hear these principals and see all the amazing good things going on in our schools. A lot of times we focus on the one bad thing, but I always tell people that one thing that went wrong, think of literally thousands of good things going on in every school every day. So real quick, I won't take up too much time with my superintendent's report. I first want to recognize all of our teams that have been in the basketball playoffs, whether it be at Natchitoches Central or Lakeview, but I also want to recognize specifically, and right now everyone's sending good vibes out to Coach Williams and the Gators as they take on A-Meet in the semifinals down in Lake Charles. They've done a lot of hard work. They return a lot of seniors, so we're really excited about their chances to continue on to the finals. So good luck, Coach. I also want to give you some very good news, the best news we've had in terms of COVID, the entire pandemic. For the first week in 2 years, we have no positive cases of students this week. And last week we only had one. So breathe a sigh of relief. That is huge. It's huge for everyone's social, emotional health, and then also just for the health of our community. So I'm just really excited about that. I also want to mention this week and highlight one of our employees, Ms. Parish, has been working tirelessly for the past 6 months. And we introduced our new website on Monday, and I believe it was amazing and still is amazing. I think we've gotten some feedback from parents and constituents that it's much easier to navigate, user-friendly. And then I also want to encourage everyone to go to the iOS app download area, whatever that's called, and also the Android area, and download the Natchitoches Parish Schools app. That is going to be something that we're doing kind of a soft open right now with, but as the year progresses, and especially with the onset of next school year, we're going to be using that to communicate a lot with parents. And it's just a really neat thing. I think it's going to take us to the next level. These things weren't done because they're neat and cool, although they are neat and cool. They were done because we want to be able to communicate with our parents and our community in a more consistent
manner to where they feel like they know what's going on at a moment's notice. And so that's why we made those investments. I also want to mention, I think the board had an excellent few days of learning at LSBA. Really came together with different boards from around the state. I think learned a lot. And it's obvious that our board is working together in a way that is being recognized around the state. I also want to touch on the fact that, yes, I am in Dallas right now with the NIAT group. Dr. Brumley spoke today, and I can tell you what's most exciting about this conference is that everything Dr. Brumley is talking about for the future of Louisiana schools is what we are already, let me say that again, is what we are already investing in and doing in Natchitoches Parish. So we are ahead of the game, and that's so exciting. I will finish with this. Tonight, you're going to hear a lot of consequential things that we're doing in this district. I want to tell you a couple things about that. Number one, this has been a hard 2 years. I know we say that a lot and it's kind of gotten cliche, but it's been a hard 2 years for our employees, not just teachers, but our employees. We have listened. We have heard. We've probably shed some tears with you. Tonight's initiatives are about two things. Number one, showing our people that we care about them, we listen to them, and we value them. And in Natchitoches Parish, we care about our employees. In Natchitoches Parish, we care about our employees. And the second thing is that all these initiatives, it's not about throwing money and things of that nature. It's about putting the best product in front of the students of Natchitoches Parish, because the better the teacher, the better the custodian, the better the everything that's in front of our students, the better product we're going to see in student outcomes. It's not about just bringing in new people, because we have some amazing people here. It's about retaining our excellent people and recruiting those same excellent folks. So tonight, bear those facts in mind. We love our people, and this is a testament to them that we know it's been a long, hard time, but it's also about getting those best people in front of our kids. So I'm excited. I hope the board's excited. And that is my superintendent report, Ms. President.
Very much. The next item on the agenda is old business, and I would like to note there was no old business emailed in to add to the agenda. So just a reminder, if you do have old business to discuss, be sure and email Ms. Revels. New business, any new business? Consent agenda. So we will start with our informational reports. Transportation, is Ms. Washington here tonight, our representative of Ms. Washington? I didn't see her. Okay, so we'll move along to receive budget update, Lee Lyscombe.
Okay. Okay, will it be on the screen, Mike? The budget report. Has everybody got it pulled up on those laptops?
So,
Well, there's really nothing to say other than everything is looking pretty much as it is. Oh, I've got it here. I just didn't know if y'all were gonna have it up there. I'm sorry. The one thing to note is payroll is higher, and that is because you might remember that everybody in the district got $800 and non-certified personnel got $400 raise. That came from the MFP money. So the MFP money will be a little higher to cover that cost. And other than that, it looks about where it should be. One thing to make note of is over in encumbrances, you'll see $1.7 million. That 1.5 billion of that has to do with some laptops that are iPads that have just come in for computers. That money is actually coming and being paid for out of some federal funding. So we've recorded the expense, but we have yet to record the expected revenue. That will come with budget changes. I'm going to be presenting to y'all at the Thursday meeting some budget updates that Chad and I would like to have y'all update. And it's things like that that we would like to share with y'all. So we recorded the expense side, but have not updated the revenue side of that one.
Mr. Watson,
Yes, sir.
you know, we had a projected, and Mr. Cozad said we had a projected loss of devices and different things like that. Can you, Tuesday night, can y'all provide what those losses were and were they within projection or what we're doing to repair and replace?
That's really an expert question for him.
You
Sure.
had said that you were tracking that, and so maybe that could be a quick report.
We can provide that on Tuesday, but you're not going to see complete data until the end of the school year, and we actually bring everything back because there are a lot of devices that get damaged and the students just remain quiet about them.
Okay.
So I can give you numbers on Tuesday,
That
but
would
that's
never
only
happen.
what we have thus far, and it's not going to be accurate until the end of the school year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Child nutrition is, I'm not gonna steal Shauna your the only thing that we're concerned about these days is the price of food, and Shauna has been doing an excellent job in managing that. I'll let her expound upon it in her report. Title I is about where it should be. ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 have been reported here. These numbers are getting ready to start shooting up. Some of the things we're going to approve tonight will make the next month's report be significantly higher on the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding. So other than that, that's my budget report. It looks like where it should be. None of these numbers make me nervous in any way right now.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Wascom? No? Okay,
Let
Mr.
me ask a question real quick.
Sure.
We still have some ESSA monies available for
Yes,
some
ma'am. We have
projects.
over 30-some-odd $1 million still coming
Okay,
in.
because, well, I'll put it on the agenda for next month, but for the arts and music and things of that nature, for some of the schools that don't have that.
Well, to let you know that Dr. Eloy has already asked me to start, was working with putting out bids for orchestra. Well, that is an important step for us. We're just trying to see where the money is exactly. I do believe we've already got some of this in budget. It's just trying to come up with a coherent plan with numbers is what we're trying to do now. But we do have this on the agenda. Dr. Eloy has this, he's got me working on that right now. It's just a matter of getting the right instruments in and having a plan that we can finance. And so that is definitely a priority for us.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, maintenance report, Mr. Shirley.
How are y'all doing this evening? We're just about standard with our report. We've had several things replaced, fire alarm systems, some AC situations at Goldana that we've had repaired and replaced. Construction's still ongoing and coming to an end in certain areas for several of our schools. The update with Fastenal, they have about half of our schools and our shop figured out as far as the vending. They're still working on the other half. The new work order system is actually launched. So we launched that Monday. We've started getting work orders in on it. Mr. Kozad is actually helping us get situated with that. It's much more user friendly and much easier to use in my eyes. They're getting them in real time now and not go to Goldana, come back, sit down at the computer, get a work order, then go back out to Fairview. Now they will be getting them in real time, so when they're in Goldana, they get that work order for Fairview, they can leave Goldana, swing by Fairview. Cuts out a lot of the travel time, us being able to do that now.
because they can do it all by their phone.
They can do it all by their phone.
We weren't able to do that.
Yeah, so, and now the principals can actually take a picture of something. So if they have something broken, they can actually take a picture and attach it to the work order. That helps us see exactly what's broken, what we need to repair it, which cuts down on having to go back and forth to retrieve parts. Of course, y'all seen the work of Payne. He's actually touched, I think, every campus now, and it's looking wonderful.
Looks so good.
Now, the main thing I would like to discuss with y'all is the water report for Fairview Alpha. I gave y'all all a copy. of this report. The main thing we need to be concerned with is what I've got highlighted in green. The total hardness for the Fairview water system is only 16. Shreveport runs about 90. Natchitoches runs between 80 and 85. The minimum is 40. And what this means is as that pipe is sitting there with not enough hardness, it releases oxygen bubbles, which combines with chlorine, which eats copper lines from the inside out. That's the reason we're having so many plumbing issues at Fairview Alpha. We just replaced about 40 foot of 2-inch copper this past week for pinholes and everything else. I've contacted the water district. I'm waiting on a return call, but we can actually do something about it at the school, or we can have them hopefully do something about it at the actual water system. That's where it needs to be corrected. We can correct it at the school, but then that's going to be on us. This is not only affecting our schools, but we've had multiple reports of churches, homes that have copper lines that's going through the same issues on this water system. So in the next couple of weeks, it's going to have to be brought to their attention, and everything's going to have to be taken care of. If not, we're going to really be in a bind.
So, just to summarize, it's eating the copper pipe and thinning the walls. It's literally eating the pipe from the inside out. It's going to eventually start exploding.
They may have funding to make the repairs that needed.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, is what we're gonna have to do to get it done. It should be on them because theirs is so low, but a minimum is 40 and they're at 16.
Surely they should be aware of that, right? I mean, they do their own testing.
They're supposed to be doing their own testing, but this is the second company that I've actually had come out and test it. The first one I didn't believe, it kind of seemed a little odd, but this is the same company that Natchitoches Regional Medical Center uses, and I used for 20 years, and they said the same thing, so I'll believe it.
So my question is, it says Red River Schools at the top. Is that just a typo? And this is the report for Gold
Yes, this is the report. This actually came.
I'm Fairview, sorry.
Yes, it is actually for Fairview. It
Okay.
says Red River, but the gentleman that actually done this, he's from Red River, so I don't know if they've done the
Just-
testing, so I don't know if
yeah.
it just went through his head or what, but yes, this
Okay.
actually is for Fairview.
Okay.
So it's dropping and went from 16, 13 down to 10, is that correct?
That's on different loops, yes, sir.
Wow.
See, that's your domestic cold water, then that's your domestic hot water, which is coming through your water heaters, and then you have your chiller loop, which is actually what's running your chillers. So yeah, it's,
Mr. Sir, does the water at Fairview Alpha, does it come from their plant into that storage tank and then leave the storage tank to the school, or does it?
no, as far as I'm understanding, it goes straight to the school. That storage tank has been abandoned,
Been
as far as I,
abandoned?
yeah, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions?
Get back to y'all.
Yes, and I will, as soon as I know further from them, I will get back with y'all, let you know.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no questions for Mr. Shirley, we'll move along to the sales tax report. Mr. Wascom.
Okay? I was just gonna, can you go to the second to the last page? This is the page that always let it finish drawing, I don't think that's. Okay, so, last column all the way to the bottom. If you zoom in on that.
So just this table here.
As you can see, sales taxes were up 20%. They started to go down a little bit, made me a little nervous, and now they're turning around. And you talk to to Miss Laura at the Natchitoches Tax Commission, she thinks they're going to continue to go up. I do understand that a lot of people go to the shelves at Walmart and various others, and they see some empty shelves or thinned out shelves, but we cannot discount how much of this is coming from Amazon. That's where a lot of our sales are coming from, and so she thinks this number will continue at this pace or even expand. So anyhow, this is all really good news. So over last year, we received an additional $2,775,000 over what we received this exact same time last year. And you might remember I was reporting good news this time last year. So it's all really good news. So if you just take a look at 2019, the first column, it was $10 million had been collected, and now we've collected into 2022, $14,500,000, which is a $4 million increase. That's significant. That's a very significant amount. So I see that being stable and continuing. So that's my sales tax report. That doesn't really get much better than that.
No, it doesn't.
We certainly appreciate the people who choose to shop at home.
Yes.
It makes a big difference. Okay, personnel report. Ms. Page, is she with us on Zoom?
She is, hold on, just one second.
Ms. Page could not be here in person, so
She's recruiting
she's
in
recruiting.
Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
So she'll be joining us electronically any moment.
Ms. Page, can you hear us? Ms. Page.
Well, so what we can do is, oh, is she there?
I can see, hey, you're just not on y'all's television screen yet.
I'm not that one.
Okay, so everyone has the personnel report. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Page? Or Ms. Page, did you have anything to present to us verbally? Or are you just here for questions?
Well, I would like to point out that we are now getting ready to change Ms. Lacasse from a supervisor to a director.
Okay, do you mind talking to us a little bit about how someone goes from a supervisor, not her in particular, what the time frame is or the knowledge behind choosing a director from a supervisor position?
Well, basically, it's the same job, but there's a little time period in between. We typically want to say that it is 6 months, but it's the same job. It's a probationary period. We want to see that they're going to do well in that position, and then we make the change.
Okay, so just like a 6-month probation period. Is that a typical time frame for everyone that goes from director, well, supervisor to director?
In the past, not necessarily, but that is the direction we're heading in. And can I go back first though and just say that I'd like to co-sign on everybody's excitement. Oh my God, we are so excited to finally see the fruits of our labor. This is such an exciting time. It is amazing to hear so many people talk about the vibe, the new feeling, the feeling of excitement, the hope that is just, I'm telling you, it's a different feeling out there right now. So we want to thank you for that. You all are sitting there looking pretty in your new room with all your new things, but we all feel a newness at this time, and I'd just like to thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so going back to the supervisor and director position, you said not in the past, or 6
Not
months?
necessarily. There wasn't a designated time frame. I mean, we started as supervisors and then they were changed to directors. It wasn't necessarily 6 months at the time, but that is what we're doing now.
Okay. Okay.
Or somewhere around that time frame. It may not be exactly 6 months.
Okay. Does anyone else have some questions?
Yeah,
Ms.
well,
Palmer?
would that be anybody replacing her as supervisor?
No, it's the same job. I mean, the same responsibilities.
You just changing her title?
It's similar, can y'all hear me? It's similar to what we did with Mr. Waston. When we hired Mr. Waston, he started out as a supervisor, and then he, I think actually Mr. Waston, it may have been 3 or 4 months. And then I think we did the same thing with Ms. Hicks. So I think that's kind of in the same vein.
So is she replacing Ms. Bennett?
She had already replaced
Yeah.
Ms. Bennett.
She's already part of that capacity.
And her position is going to be vacated, the supervisor position?
It gets
It won't be
renamed
filled.
director, she gets a raise.
So Ms. Bennett was what? What was her title?
Director.
Director.
Correct. Yes.
Everybody is hired as a supervisor, and then they're promoted to a director.
Okay, I'm just trying to.
But Ms. McCann was a supervisor prior to being,
We hire them into the new position. They're hired as supervisors. I was hired as a supervisor. Ms. Watson was hired as a supervisor. Ms. Wright was hired as a
I
supervisor.
understand what you're saying, but okay, two different positions, because there was a director and supervisor position has been phased into one. Is that, it always been that way, you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
For director's jobs.
We're hired as supervisors, and then we're promoted to directors after a certain period of time, or a period of time.
Just in the time.
So nobody was in Ms. Bennett's place until now?
We hired Ms.
You
LaCass
hired
as
her
a
for the
supervisor.
position, you
Yes,
just didn't give her the title of director yet?
No, the director, right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Page? Okay, moving along to the child nutrition. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Do
Ms.
we have
Page.
any questions?
No, ma'am.
I just have to do this. Linda Page, NPSB, teach Natchitoches from Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Reporting live from Hattiesburg. We appreciate that live report. Okay, Ms. Shauna Hicks with the Child Nutrition, another live report from Natchitoches, Louisiana.
But I'm coming to you from Natchitoches. We are moving right along through the school year. I almost feel like we're short timing it now. When I'm looking at the weeks, it's just going by so quickly. Our claims have been strong. We put in a claim for $354,000 in January and $309,000 for February, which was very healthy considering we were out for a week. Like everyone else, we are having some struggles with supply chain, but we recently learned, in fact, just a few days ago, that we will be receiving a little over $125,000 from USDA for supply chain supplementing, so that will help offset some of the cost increases that we're experiencing in our department. So that was very welcome, because our groceries have gone up just like your groceries have gone up. So that was very timely for us. Planning is underway for summer school at all of the sites. We will be providing meals. As soon as we get some projected numbers, I'll begin staffing placement for that, and the ladies have been telling me, and gentlemen, who would like to work. So that is underway, and that's the end of my report this month. It's short and sweet. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Shauna, have you had any requests from your vendors to make bigger batches or larger or combine things or
No,
schedule changes, delivery date changes, things like that because of the transportation costs?
No, not in relation to the gas at this time. The only thing we have experienced is where a contract would typically be locked in at a price. We have had some of our vendors come to us and say, look, we're gonna have a hard time honoring this price. Can we increase? But what I would say about that is it might be a one-time increase. I haven't had vendors come to me every month and say, we need to go up, we need to go up, we need to go up. It's been a reasonable request. One thing that comes to mind is like styrofoam right now is at a premium.
Yeah.
And so our 6-compartment lunch trays, went
Fine
up.
cups and straw too.
Yes, yes. So those items are just hard for everybody right now. Dart, a huge manufacturer, is not even taking new business at this point. They can't keep up, so.
What is the status of the backup generators?
The backup generators, we are still working with Mr. Ed Saja. I believe that, and I think you have been privy to this too, they have been looking at the logistics of so many freezers and coolers popping on at one time with one generator. So that's kind of where we are. They're looking at what it's going to take to make that work. Now, Ms. Guidrose, I'm no electrician, but I know that is kind of a sticking point right now. So we're figuring out what has to be done to make it all work. But it is still in process, and I'm hopeful that for next school year it'll be in place. Hopefully before hurricane season.
Before hurricane season.
Yes, that's the goal.
Or blizzard season.
That's true.
Regarding, go ahead.
Ms.
I was gonna say, regarding summer, have you had a healthy response to individuals interested in serving during the summer?
Yes, in fact, I've had some kitchens that said, my staff and I would all like to work all 4 weeks. And so we may have to scoot some people around, but yes, we've had a good response. I don't think we'll have any problem with staffing.
That is great. I do want to share a compliment with you.
Oh.
I was at Natchitoches Central yesterday, and it was around lunchtime, and the children were bragging on the pizza. The exact compliment was, the pizza is hitting today. So if you'll pass that along to your staff, they are appreciating the pizza.
Pizza's always favorite.
Can testify, it's our goal to be hitting every day.
The summer feeding sites be the same, and what are the dates? You said 4 weeks?
It is 4 weeks, and I apologize, I don't have the exact in front of me. It's basically the month of June, excluding Fridays, and there are 7 sites.
Okay.
7 sites this year, which is an increase from last year.
Okay, thank you. Only for the month of June, though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Finance, Facilities, Services, and Insurance, Mr. Danzy.
Item 7A, permission to advertise for bids for Natchitoches Parish School Board Educational Technology Center. And Mr. Watson, we've discussed that somewhat in
Our last board meeting.
meeting.
So this is just asking for permission for us to start the process of getting bids pulled together. If we do this, we have a limited number of years to build it. We have to be done by June 30th of 2025. But right now, I think that's all easy to do. But just to get ahead of this, we're gonna, probably these bids will go out once the drawings are finished, so we're probably 2 months out. But I'll just go ahead and get this started.
And Mr. Walston, can you make sure everyone knows that that is utilizing federal ESSER funds?
Right, it's free. It's using the $36 million left we have in ESSER funds. All those months have been dedicated, but that's about a $4 million build out. And it's all being paid for out of ESSER funds. And we submitted the request, and they said that was the most coherent, what was it, Mike? The most coherent, most effective use of a computer building that they'd ever had in the state. So they immediately approved it.
That's awesome.
And I was like, wow, that's great.
I was going to go ahead and share a couple more things that have come up with y'all, and then answer any questions you guys had about the presentation that I made during the workshop. But I think we got some stuff here that's going to be pretty exciting for everybody. Just for anyone who didn't see the original plans or wasn't here for the workshop or only caught it through the newspaper, that's where the location of the building is proposed. That is the proposed floor plan. These are the same things the board's already seen, but I want to make a public record. That's the proposed drive-through layout, and that's the vision.
Can you provide some insight to the public of what you told us during the workshop of how far you have to transport things by hand for the delivery that just was you received?
Yes, so we received our big freight delivery that Mr. Washington referenced during the budget update. In total, it actually ended up being more than 16.4 miles because it turns out we can only fit 5 boxes on a dolly instead of 6. You know, math adds up, but it took me and a couple of my guys, I think we were here 8 or 9 o'clock. No, 8 o'clock one night, and then about 7 o'clock last week. Just dollies back and forth. The freight driver met us. They came from Dallas, dropped them off out in the parking lot, and
We set up some spotlights so we could continue to work in the dark without making sure anything got stolen or anything. But it's not an ideal situation when we're handling volumes in the millions of dollars worth of technology to be using flashlights and moving things around. So in total, for that one delivery combined, it took us about 12 to 14 man hours and about 16, 17, 18 miles, something like that, of trucking dollies back and forth just to get them to the storage place. And then that has to be repeated at a much slower pace as we process them and get them turned out back to the schools.
And your new facility will have bay doors you can back right up.
It's got a bay door. That's right there. If you see the area that looks like just a bunch of lines at the top, that bay door is right up here in the back of the building, and this whole back is all warehouse and storage space. So our thought process is, since it's just small enough, we're going to be using some sort of like electric pallet jack type thing, and a truck will be able to back up right to the bay door, and then we'll be able to offload the truck right there.
Lift and go straight off.
Just go straight off, right in, and then, instead of 17 miles, it becomes, 1,700 feet total.
Well, then like next week, or this week, you will have the possibility of inclement weather.
And that's the other thing, and when all these pallets come and everything like that, they're very securely plastic wrapped and sealed, and you feel really good about it. But when you have to start moving them by dollies, that means you're cutting all that protectiveness and plastic off out in the weather. And they're originally supposed to be here last Friday, or the Friday during break, and I've never been grateful for a order to be delayed, but it wasn't raining in 34 degrees, so it was nice that they came in this last week instead of that Friday.
The technology is our future. I think this is a good investment.
Absolutely.
This is where our future is. Textbooks, as you know, are gone, and this is our future.
Yeah, a lot of people were asking questions for me because they, why? And I wanted to come straight from Mr. Mike, and I know the board appreciates your explanation because it's well thought out. We appreciate it.
And then too, you explained to us the number of devices that you're now managing versus, could you give those numbers to us again?
I guess I shouldn't have given the Cliff Notes version of the PowerPoint this time. All right, so about 5 years, 2017, let's go with that. 2017, when I joined this district, there were 3 employees total running technology and about 600 to 700 computers, devices, network items that we were managing. Today, we're over 7,000 devices with a total of 6 people. One of them, obviously, in communications doesn't deal with the managing of the technology that much. But the amount of volume that we process and ship through has just grown exponentially. The lifespan on these devices is 3 years on average. That means every 3 years every year we're replacing 1/3 of that. It means that order that we just took in last week, that's going to be a yearly occurrence almost going forward. We're going to do that every year as we cycle out 1/3 of our devices and get new ones. And we rely heavily on federal funding for all these devices, and thankfully it's so far worked out pretty good. And the ESSER funds have given us the leg up to really get a good head start on getting on that right rotation. But this is something that's going to continue happening. Some more of the issues that occur with where we're currently at is we're located in a closet in the back of a school. Naturally, schools are secure facilities and locked down. It's not like you can just walk in and ask for tech support. You need to go and check in with the reception desk and get a visitor's pass and all these things. And it makes it really hard to be able to offer hours because we don't have a storefront, if you will. This will also solve that. One of our technicians that works solely on Apple devices, which is primarily where our district is going, he will be available via walk-in or drive-through during business hours in order to help a teacher or a parent that has an issue right there on the spot. And that's one of our big focuses is, in addition to logistically making sense, the customer service aspect of it is really important to me and I know my team. And it makes it hard sometimes when, hey, I need some help on something. It's like, well, you got to make an appointment. And it's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's because I'm over in Goldana and there's no reason to dedicate one of my staff members to stay there if I can put them out to use elsewhere. if we have open hours in a place that the public can access, then it makes sense to maintain them in the office and always have someone there to staff it.
So you can see the drive up on the side of the building there.
And just also, I mean, this provides drive-through service too, as
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
as not to the clients.
The drive-through was actually a big portion of why this was approved by LDOE. Being LDOE, everything that you spend on ESSER has to tie back into COVID in some way and how to better prepare for the next COVID. One of the big things that occurred across all industries was shutting down in-person service and going to drive-through service during that pandemic. Hopefully we'll never see COVID again. But for the next flu outbreak, the next sickness, when we do have to, hopefully we don't, but if we do, we have to shut down due to an illness or a health outbreak of some sort, that drive-through being available puts us in line to be set up for success. Now,
As opposed to doing it in a tent in the parking lot.
Correct. We did do drive-through service many times throughout the pandemic, but it involved either setting up a tent or standing in front of the magnet school under the eave and running out to cars. It just, we were making do with what we had, but it was definitely exposing a lot of devices to the element, to being out in the open, as well as my technicians having to sometimes sit out in 95-degree weather in the sun for 4 or 5 hours. This is also going to be the home of the virtual academy. So instead of sending our students that are in the virtual academy for whatever reason, whether they choose to or they've been placed there, they get to come to a central location. They are dealing with district programs and district policies. This is the address they're already coming to. It doesn't make sense if we say take a student that's been temporarily reassigned to the virtual academy due to behavior issues. They're going to be here dealing for the behavior issues. Wouldn't it be so much easier to say, okay, now go across the street to that building and they'll get you enrolled in the virtual academy and get you set up and all that, versus, all right, Mom, drive them across town. Well, what if they don't have a car? There's just so many things. It's a lot more easy to just, right there all in the same compound. It's all done.
What is the projected completion date for the center?
Originally, they told us 18 months is from the time that they break ground, is what the architect guesstimates. Now, obviously, with the events going on in the world, who knows how the supply chains will react and the availability of raw materials. So I don't want to say anything that, there's nothing that can be said set in stone with a finish date. We would like to see it done within that 18 months, but that might have been a reasonable estimate a few months ago, but things have changed dramatically and don't really know where we're heading with some of the supply chain issues.
Mike, is this where future teachers or teachers who are transitioning would check in and check out their laptops, the district issued laptops?
That is correct. So
So they don't bring
currently,
them to my office once this is done?
currently, if we get a new teacher, they'll finish up with Miss Nolly here doing their paperwork, and they say, okay, now you need a MacBook. I'm like, oh, cool, I get a MacBook. All right, email this guy and he'll meet you somewhere. That's it. We'll just meet him in a parking lot and give him a MacBook. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the warmest welcome to the district and not the way we should be treating our incoming staff. Speaking of incoming staff, this facility will also provide what amounts to 2 professional development rooms with a collapsible wall. Right there is the design pattern, which will offer the largest professional development space that we have in the district. New teacher orientation, I hope y'all attend every year, but if you ever go over there, they sit on each other's laps in the media center. It would be nice to have a nice new facility they can spread out and actually receive all their stuff at once and feel warm and welcome and not overcrowded. And I think, obviously, the part I'm most excited about this project is the logistics and the warehouse and the storage and the location. But there are a lot of really nice little benefits that we've gotten to throw in here because we checked those boxes with the Department of Education and got approved for that funding.
So the biggest thing is that it's zero cost to the taxpayers. Zero cost to the board.
It is federal funds. There is zero cost to the general fund. There is zero cost to any recurring budget. This comes directly 100% funded from the elementary and secondary educational emergency relief. I think that's what ESSER stands for. The bill that was passed by the feds. Zero cost to taxpayers? No. All of us are going to be paying the taxes on the ESSER funds because they came from the federal government.
Right, but no cost to the.
But this is not going to
general fund.
affect the numbers that Mr. Wascom has to update and provide with you guys, on a monthly basis.
That's
Will there be
awesome.
additional employees?
Oh, no. No, we don't, not in my department. I think NVA, I believe they're well-staffed right now, but I believe Dr. Relay would obviously know best and be able to, those numbers are gonna go up and down based on enrollment, I would assume. There are gonna be some employees that are, again, stationed across town and some that are in this building that will all be combined into this to kind of combine all the data and technology and everything like that into under one roof. But I don't have plans of hiring anyone else. My crew is highly effective. I'm proud of all of them. They've done a great job for the last 2 years, and we can handle it. What we need right now is not manpower. We need a roof.
We'll be
Any other
moving the
questions?
server, we'll be moving the server out of central office, and there's a room specifically for the server of all of our data systems in there as well.
Thank you so much for the information.
No problem.
Item 7B, permission to advertise for bids for the sale of Cooksville property and land as is.
Okay. Since our last meeting where y'all approved me to allow me to start advertising for the demolition of Cooksville, which is actually still ongoing. In the meantime, is the gentleman here?
Yes, I will announce.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to
No,
talk
I was
first.
just, let me
and then-
introduce the subject
Okay.
real quick. There's a gentleman here who has offered to buy it in as-is condition. So I was gonna let him present. The issues, as always, concern the school board from listening to the idea of moving it to a nonprofit like we were going to last time, is did whoever takes this on have the money to actually implement and make it? We have several skeletons around the parish, St. Matthew's School, there's some skeletons out at Roebling, there's a few little things and pieces, parts of old schools that still stand. We want to make sure that whoever takes this on isn't just gonna, take the land and then ultimately not do much with it. That is a concern. I'm going to proceed on with the bid opening for the demolition of the building. But this is an opportunity to save us probably around $390,000, $400,000 if this gentleman passes mustard with y'all. Y'all will have to guide me in how y'all want to do this, but if he buys this privately or as a small LLC or something, it will have to go through a process of being able to go out to bid. And we can put in there requirements that they have to have $1 million on hand or whatever it is that we would do. But I like the idea of having Cooksville have an opportunity to use this as a community center. But there is no copper in this building. All the wiring has been ripped out. It's in bad shape. All the doors are off the hinges, and it still has other issues like broken glass and some hurricane damage from Hurricane Laura. So it needs significant amount of repair in order to make it habitable again. But I would present this gentleman so he can share with y'all I told him we had about 3 minutes to share with y'all. We could probably further discuss this on Thursday. I'm still proceeding with the demolition report. I will get that back to y'all. We should have that done by the 19th of April, we'll have that number in. So, I was gonna bring him, or is it okay to bring him up?
Yes,
Or
Mr. Sam Mathis from Cooksville, Louisiana.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Lee, for giving me the opportunity to come to you guys. I know this is one of those late-minute things that I became aware of. I just recently retired, moved back to Cooksville. My wife, Lori, her family's from Cooksville. I'm from Tennessee. And we decided to move back here anyway. So we moved back about a year ago. I'm an active person in my communities. My family's always been involved, and I served on the Board of Education in Haywood County. So I reached out to Mr. Mill and said, you know, what's going on? What can I do to get involved? He pointed out some things to me, but also too in my community, just doing some assessments of what's in my community. Got involved with the parade committee. And I don't know if anyone here was at the last parade that went on in Collegeville. But again, that inspired me that, you know, they put a lot of work in, a lot of effort in, out of their own intentions, own pockets to make something happen, keep Collegeville alive. You know, I'm their guy. I'm the guy that's gonna help them get involved wherever they need me at, sweeping, mopping, fixing, or spending money. I'm committed to doing that because it's my community. A lot of times, you know, I've been a part of programs for not-for-profit programs, and this was one me and Mr. Lee had some discussions about. We turned a lot of these properties over. I was a part of one where my school board turned the property over to a not-for-profit organization, and it was not successful. A lot of times these things start off with a lot of energy and they lose momentum because the people involved change. Well, this is a different structure for me. I'm saying this is a business me and my family's had for years. We have, you know, the ability to move this on in terms. My father just passed. He left the business to me. I'll pass and move it on to someone else. But if this property is under our management, we will always be able to look at financial ways to support it. We'll be able to look at financial ways to keep it active and alive in our community. So that becomes a business thing versus, you know, if it's a not-for-profit, you know, you lose momentum after a while. We get old, we get tired of these things. But when it's your business, you're responsible for these things. We have to be responsible for the insurance, the upkeep, and everything. Whereas if I turn not-for-profit, I'll be back over here in a year saying, help, help, help. I don't want to approach it that way. I would like to approach it with the intentions of turning this property into something that can be profitable for the community, as well as the property can maintain itself. That's, you know, that's my philosophy about it. I've been a part of business a lot of years, and it's not easy to try and keep school boards spending money. You know, we got a lot of things going on in the school board. We barely kept ours alive and well, so I understand that I would love to get involved wherever I can. But my family, my business is committed, if given the opportunity, to use our resources, the help of anybody I can find, to get this project back on point. It needs to be done. If you leave a hole in my community by tearing it down, you know, I'm still gonna be back saying for some help. You know, the building has historic value, sentimental value for a lot of one of my kids. Some of my kids went to this school. So I'm asking for that memory's sake alone, give us an opportunity to save those memories for them. But, you know, I'm committed to doing it. Whatever Mr. Lee and I talked about earlier that I need to present to you guys to give you some sense of comfort other than me standing here talking to you about it, just let me know. And I'll be able to work with whoever. I would like to work with as many people as possible because this is not a one-man show. This is a team effort, a community effort, and just the contacts that I don't have here because I recently moved here. And I would need to reach out to some of you guys for who's to call for services, laborers, and things of that nature. So I'm community orientated, and I would just like to be a part of the community that I am a part of, and let's, you know, wherever I can help. And this is my neighborhood. I need to start in my neighborhood first. And thank you for your time, Steve, but if you got any questions, let me entertain them.
Does anyone have questions for Mr. Mathis?
So what is your vision for?
Okay. You know, part of the community services is, you know, they do a nice parade there, and the parade committee didn't use the parking lot or any of the facilities to stage the parade area, to get the parade started, to have where people could communicate. You know, this was all done like on the streets, whereas the school was sitting over there empty. The kids that had nowhere to play, we did our parade on 495 and Highway 1, excuse me. There was no place for even the seniors in our community to get away from under the sun. You know, the pavilion that's on the property there, you know, that would have been a good place for them to go and sit and, you know, just rest. Kids could have had a playground there to play. But we did all our parade on the main highway, 1 and 495 in the middle of traffic and stuff. So that would provide us with that. But also too, you know, we have kids in our community that my wife owns daycare centers. She's a big proponent of early education. She wants to put a daycare center on that facility. My job as her husband is to make it happen. So she's gonna put a daycare facility on that property. Now, one of the twists that I like about her idea is she wants to do some agriculture stuff, because this is a country, we want to bring some animals for the kids to have some interaction with. We're big on phonics, we're big on all the education. We got a place there where we can bring some animals, have the kids some work for these kids. You know, some of our kids sit around too much. We want to put them to work, you know, chores. But yeah, that's one of the things we would like to do, and that's something we can bring online very quickly, if allowed. Because the daycare center, it's a school. All the things I need is there: chairs, tables, equipment, and that's not cost out of my pocket. And we've had to do several daycare centers and fund them from the ground up, so that would help me a lot on the funding part.
Yeah, I talked with him, and several people in Clutterville have talked with me if we can get him to be able to get the building where to stay, because they would rather see it stay there than tear it down, but they understand that leaving it there is just going to get worse and worse and more liability on us. So that's what I feel like if we could work some kind of deal out with Mr. Matthews, and he would sign off on what Mr. Wascom was saying or whatever, I'd like for the board to let him get it or whatever, because I think we might have to put it
We
up
can't
for
give it to a
bids.
private.
Yeah, we can't give it, we'd have to put it up for bids, and put in the stipulations with the bids that we wanted this did to it within a certain length of time, not just let the building stay there. We would want the building secure in a certain length of time. And Mr. Matthews say he don't have a problem with that and stuff. And
I would like the opportunity to start as soon as possible, securing the property, because it's a danger over there. And also too, Mr. Lee talked about it. Every day, the value is being decreased. Every day.
And you don't think it's too far gone to renovate?
I've done worse, but if we let it sit much longer, I moved back a year ago, and I talked to Mr. Lee. If I would have been more diligent a year ago, we'd been in a much better position. But the major reason why I told Mr. Lee that I believe that I can personally get this done, my family is electricians by trade, and the bulk of the work in that damage is from the electrical systems. They've stripped every piece of copper, every electrical system out of that property. So just to hire an electrician, it would be undoable.
What about asbestos? Is there no issue there?
There are some small issues there that Mr. Lee has addressed to me. We will have to bring someone in and have it inspected. That's what
I've already got the report.
Okay, well, if you got the report, then we just need to address what's in the report and address those items like we would any other item. Can do is what we gotta be. Everything that we gotta do, I gotta have the attitude that it can't be done. Or I shouldn't have tried this. All right.
Do you have a proposal to submit for financial resources to assist with the renovation and rebuilding at this time, or?
Yeah, whatever you need from me from his financials, just kind of let me know. I can provide that information to you. I've reached out to my bankers who I've done business with for years. I have told Mr. Lee I have a couple of lines of credits that I'm willing to use for this property already established before I came to this property. So I've been doing business as a contractor for a while. So it's not like I got to go set these things up there in place if I choose to use them on this project. But it's going to take some funds outside of my own personal uses. I will tell you the truth. Me and Mr. Lee talked, this is a $2,000 or $3,000 project. Whether you tear it down or build it back, I've got to be committed to it for the long haul. That's another reason why, giving it to a not-for-profit is one thing, but buying it, putting it in my company, there's some value in me, putting my money in it. One day I might be able to get it out. But I bought a building, a grocery store, gave it to a city as a non-for-profit, same thing. They took it, used it for a while, and then turned around, let the building fall apart, and they wind up coming back to me too. So I've been in this situation before. You don't want the building back, and I don't want to give it back to you. So whatever you need for me to get it moving forward, I'll provide for you. But if it's the finances or some type of statement of how we can show it that it can make income.
I would actually say that we need to put it out for bid, and you not disclose your plan until it's in a competitive bid situation.
I agree. Mr. Lee, I appreciate everybody's energy, the people that spoke before me. You guys are motivating me to get off myself and get to work. You guys are doing good work. I can't sit around and do nothing and call myself part of the community. So let's go. Tell me what you need me to do.
You're just asking us to approve letting
Well,
this
let me
bid.
make the request for me. I would like to ask permission to put the property up for sale contingent upon approval with a plan. In other words, I would like permission to put it out for an RFP, request for proposal. Everybody who chips in says, well, I'll pay you $1,000, but we'll bring to the table whatever money and their plan is. Then maybe I can create a committee of me and Mr. Multipliers, maybe a couple other, Billy, whoever else, could sit there and look at all the proposals and come up with what the best alternative would be. But it's, none of the proposals may be what y'all are into, and we still proceed with demolition, which is already underway. But it won't be till the May board meeting that we approve the demolition, bid opening. So, but I've got to get moving in order to work this in. I'd love for this to work out, but there may be 2 other people out there, and we don't want them to say they were left out of the process. So we don't want to have him make a proposal to us, and then somebody hear it in the open meeting, and they know what to beat. You know what I mean? And they outdo him because he's already disclosed his plans. So I think the only fair thing to do would be take it to a bid, and we just see what comes in. If his is the only bid, well, then we work with that. And if y'all
Actually, we have to do a bid because we can't give it to an individual person, so we would have to give it a bid. That way they can't come and say we give it to him, I wanted it back and forward. With any public property or surplus property, we have to bid out or auction it off.
And I want to do everything strictly by the, because I don't want to be the one they point the finger at later saying they show them some favoritism. So I just like to keep it straight where it belongs.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking for is permission. I swear to you, I'll get right on it the day after, starting next Wednesday, because we're going to have to move fast here this time. All right.
Any more questions for me? I thank you for your time, and again, the opportunity is, like I said, for the opportunity to try.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Russ, did you have anything else?
That's it. That's it.
Item number 8, personnel, Linda Page, reporting live from Hattiesburg again.
I'll actually, this is not very long, I'll actually be taking those items, me and Ms. Page spoke about this prior to. And I guess I'll wait for my picture to come up on the screen.
There you go.
There we go. Item A, title change of Director of Academics. We're just asking, no change in their job description. We're just asking to change that to Director of Teaching and Learning. That goes in line with the restructure that I'm about to talk about. Again, no change in salary, no change in job description, just a change in title. Any questions on that?
I think no questions there.
Can I take the next 2 items together, Mr. President?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay, so these are multiple positions. They are all
Teaching and learning specialists. There are 4 of those, and interest and opportunity specialists. I spoke to the board at length at the board retreat. This is not 5 new positions in the general sense. There are some positions that we will be absorbing, 3 of those, and then the extra 2 positions would be 2 new positions,
so to speak. But what we're looking at is we want to offset the cost of those new positions with title funding. And actually, if we do this in the way I believe that it will transpire, we will end up saving the general fund more than we are currently using for the 3 positions. So let me just reiterate that because I know that's a little confusing. We are adding 2 extra positions, but by utilizing title funds for all 5 of these new positions, we will actually be saving the general fund potentially anywhere between $300,000 to $500,000. Now, why do we need these positions? Why does there need to be a restructure? Well, if you talk to any principals, they will tell you that the instructional specialists are great. They work with teachers, they do the clusters, But there still needs to be, and this is a best practice, you'll see this in every district around the state, there needs to be a greater support structure that's coming from the district. And so you would have in these teacher and learning specialists, you'd have someone who is a little more ELA focused, someone who's social studies focused, someone who's science focused, someone who's math focused. Although they wouldn't be only the math person or only the social studies person, they would have a broader ability. And they would work both individually and as a team. And they would go into schools as a school support team when schools needed extra help. Also, the interest and opportunity specialist, right now we are starting to get points from something called interest and opportunities. Interest and opportunities are those things extra in the school day, whether it be art, foreign language, music, PE, all those things. And school systems can get a lot of points by offering their students more interest and opportunities. Through the WIN structure, we're offering more interest and opportunities. But for a long time, we have talked about the fact that we have no one at the district level who is supporting our elective teachers, whether it be those in the arts, which I know many of you are very concerned about, or those in the PE structures, or any of those things. We don't hold them to the same accountability often that we hold everyone else to. And so all of these positions are about giving more support to the schools. I think one of my principals said it best. We pushed on them a lot this year that one of our biggest rocks that we have to really address this year and in oncoming years is science and social studies. Our scores are, and this is statewide as well, but our scores are not good in science and social studies. But if you look at the support that the district is offering schools right now in science and social studies, it's virtually non-existent. So what this does is it says we're going to offer support in all the core areas, and we're going to offer support in the elective areas. The major point of this, I would not come to you because I know Mr. Benefield is always watching positions and everything. I would not come to you and say we need 5 new positions. We are at a point in time based on movement and of folks that we can recalibrate our system, and actually in doing so, potentially, like I said, save the general fund $300,000 to $500,000. I believe it's a grand slam. I think it's going to make our support for principals and teachers much more robust. And so I strongly would encourage you to, well, number one, ask me any questions, but also to vote in the affirmative on these items.
And they're gonna be paid, how will they be paid, the funding for these?
Title I funding, and I believe one of them we would access some Title II funding. But the first job, when we get in there with Mr. Wascom and Ms. Rochelle, is to make sure that that can occur, because the only way to do this is to offset the increased cost by utilizing title funds.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Eloy?
Yeah, so you're gonna have one ELA specialist?
Well, yes, ma'am, but I just want to reiterate, there will be someone who kind of that's their focus, but they're not going to be so dogmatic where I'm only helping with ELA. They should be someone who, that may be their expertise, but they're able to help with more than just that. And what we've been doing is it's kind of just like, I'm just the ELA person, I'm just the math person. So we want people with a focus, but a little bit more broad of an experience.
So one person was going to all the schools, different schools?
No, this would be district personnel that would go out to schools. So you'd have one ELA, one math, one science, one social studies, and then one for the electives. And they'd operate as a team. Now they can break off from each other if they need to, but when we have major issues at one school, we want to go in as a team to support the principal, however that principal needs or asks to be supported. Kind of like a school support SWAT team, but only at the request of the principal. This is not a team that's going to go in and say, this is what you need to do. This is a team that's going to come in at the request of the principal and say, how can we help?
Dr. Eloy, talked a little bit about the interest and opportunity specialists in STEM. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so whether it be STEM or whether it be any of these things, I tell a story and I tell it all the time. I think people get sick of hearing it, but there's a book called Outliers, and it talks about Bill Gates and why Bill Gates is Bill Gates. It's not because he's the smartest man in the world. He's a smart guy, but it's because at one time when he was in 6th grade, his school purchased one of the few computers in the entire world outside of a research university. He got an opportunity that many kids didn't. This interest and opportunity specialist would be looking at ways to bring in more opportunities, because not every kid is a math kid, not every kid is a music kid, not every kid is an athletic kid. We have to find every little niche that a child can fit in, whether that's STEAM, STEM, or whether it's something else. We need to find ways to engage kids more than we're currently doing, because the more students engaged, the less likely they are to drop out, the less likely they are to have behavior issues, and the more likely they are to be successful in their future.
Dr. Eloy, so you mentioned that these specialists would come out at the request of the principal. What sorts of things will they be doing when their presence isn't requested?
Great question. So they're going to be working really with the instructional specialists on a lot of the meetings where we push out professional development. They'll be leading professional development at the district level, but they'll also be, I'm not saying that they won't go to schools when principals, if a principal doesn't say, hey, come to my school, it's not like they won't be in schools. They can still be there and say, hey, I'm doing a weekly walkthrough to support you. What class would you like me to go into? So although they will be kind of at the request of principals, there is also going to be things that they'll come and do to support any current efforts that are ongoing. But we want them to be, when I first came to the district, anyone from the district was kind of the boogeyman. We want them to be so integrated with the staff that it's like, oh, hey, whatever the person's name is, they're just as much of the faculty of Central or Lakeview or LP Vaughn as the people who are there every day. And so they're part of this turnaround effort, this effort that we're doing district-wide. They would also serve as kind of the instructional leadership team at the district. So they're still doing a lot of the similar things that curriculum teams do now, but we've just kind of expanded their role as well as the support team when needed.
Okay. Thank you.
And when you'll advertise, this will be just like for any other job to the public for these positions?
Yes, ma'am. We would advertise all these positions. First, I want to do some due diligence on our Title I budgeting before we post them. So I would do that first. Then we would post the positions. There would be one position where there's someone in a lateral role currently within the curriculum department that they would move into. But other than that, all the other positions would be posted and would be interviewed for and all of that stuff. But there's one where someone would move in laterally.
I have a question. So, like with the instructional specialists, like did you see a lack in progress with that into where we need these teacher specialists?
No, ma'am. No, this has nothing to do with instructional specialists. This is just a reorganization of the current curriculum team as it currently stands. So this is, the instructional specialists are school personnel. This is a restructuring of the district version of that.
So we have a curriculum team, right? So they're going to replace the curriculum team?
Yes, ma'am. It's just a restructuring of what we have now to make that curriculum team we currently have a more robust structure that we feel will be more effective and strategic.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No, just have a concern when we're looking, is making sure we're looking at equity and hiring ongoing. And I know that you're concerned about that. We are too. People are concerned in general.
I would love, in response to that, because I'm always concerned about that, I'd like to take y'all through maybe in our next workshop, how we're doing our hiring, the process we're doing with that. I think y'all will be very impressed with it and how I think it's as equitable and fair a process as it can be, but I think y'all need to be knowledgeable of that so y'all can see how we go about doing that to make sure y'all feel like we're being fair in these processes. I'd love to take y'all through that.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so yeah, that's an excellent idea, and you may not be aware of this, Dr. Eloy, but Mr. Eugene Garner has offered to fry fish for our next workshop. So sooner rather than later. No, he catches them. Don't you catch the fish yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, he fishes, like that's his thing. So, okay, if no more questions in regards to A, B, or C, then we'll move on to the executive report, Ms. Broadway.
Okay, so, item 9A, salary schedule, Mr. Watson.
Okay. Well, Mr. Watson, do you mind if I start off and then I'll let you get into the nuts and bolts?
Yeah, go ahead, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so just to give y'all some background information, a year ago I asked Mr. Wascom to create a new salary schedule. To give some very brief statements, the old schedule was antiquated and there's no strategy to it. It was just kind of there. I'm sure many of you have talked to many employees. There's many concerns about the salary schedule, of fairness, of equity, of all those things. And this, I believe it's been 14 years since there's been a revisitation of the salary schedule. What we're looking at is we want to be competitive. We're surrounded by the number 1, the number 2, and the number 6 paying parishes in the state, which make competition very difficult. If we adopt this salary schedule, we project that we will go from number 24th average paying district to the top 10. I also want to reiterate that this was done, or this is being proposed without going to get a bond, without adding any tax, without going to the taxpayers. This was done in a way between Mr. Wascom, myself, and staff, where we looked at efficiencies that we could realize within our current system. It's something that I think Mr. Wascom should be extremely proud of. But it does 2 things that I mentioned earlier in the night. It shows our people we value them, and it also shows our parents that we are going to try to recruit and retain the best people for their children. So with all that being said, I'd love to turn it over to Mr. Wascom because he knows all the math and Excel stuff.
First of all, let's show where we're at. This is what was adopted and originally adopted. It has 22 pages. I don't know if you've seen it. 22 pages of salary schedules. It goes on and on and on. It's restrictive and also unclear. Some of this is obsolete and it's not used. It also it hurts us in trying to recruit coaching, for instance, in one instance, and also just not keeping us competitive currently. What I've proposed to you guys, and if you click on it, is basically switching to a new way of doing things. Right now, if you're a teacher, let's say 12 years, master's plus 30, and you become a principal, you go to the principal schedule at 0 years. It's actually pretty upsetting to most everybody.
Yes, yes it is.
It is. So there's a principal saying, it's upsetting. This system gets rid of all that. What it does is, for instance, if you get a promotion in accounting, you go from one column to the next, you've been here 10 years, you go straight back to 0. And you have to start going down it again. Your pay cannot be less than what you were earning, but it may not be much more. So if you come to this district as a certified teacher, when you make jumps, it's now a multiplier. So you have on the page 1, this is where almost everybody in the district will be, is on the teacher's schedule. So let's talk about Natalie since she's back there. If you figure out what column she's in, how many years experience she has, other districts, if you come in with 8 years of experience from other districts, it's always qualifying. Those are all qualifying years. So then you go to, if she's at school, you go to the school administration page, and if she were gonna be a assistant principal, and she's an elementary assistant principal, it would be a 1.13. If it's a middle school, 1.16. If she it becomes principal, it's all very well laid out and by how big that school is. Also, we had to, what is a coordinator? What's a facilitator? What exactly is a supervisor? What's a director? Tell me who these people are, where they're at. We had to spend all this time going through specifically defining what these things are and putting an organizational chart together before we could arrive at this. We have clarified all of that now. And so the whole time that Natalie's here, she will always have her years progressing down on her teacher salary, but based on what promotion she's been given, she would just take whatever that salary is and then use a multiplier to figure out what her new pay is with her new responsibility. And she doesn't have to absorb going to 0. It's insulting. It just doesn't feel right. And so this system eliminates that. If you're like me, I don't have a teaching degree. I have an accounting degree. So you're going to hire me on page 3 of this. You're going to hire me as a professional or non-administrative staff. Generally, to begin with, columns A, B, and C will be your custodians. D, E, and F will be a combination of your maintenance group and all of that. Actually, column M is just for the future. We actually have nobody, not even me, that lands on column M right now. This gives us flexibility. If we are trying to recruit a high-quality executive to take my place one day, this gives you a better opportunity to do that based on their experience and based on, you know, what grade. I call the columns A through M grade levels in the steps or the number of years. If you go to the next one, this is the food service workers. The reason I separated them out, because they have so many unique different things going on and working. It's really a schedule y'all have already approved, okay? So this page y'all have actually already approved. I just made it blue and light blue just to make it better to look at. The next page is the secretarial and support staff. Honestly, there's only one secretary at 12 months, one at 11 months. Almost all of them reside at 10 months. We do have a bookkeeper as well, so I made a column for that. And then the central office secretarial group is on the second half, the last 4 columns there. If you look at the next page, which is paraprofessionals and aides, bus drivers, there's actually only 6 people on the old bus driving system that we still have. Eventually, these 2 columns over the next however many years until they retire, these 2 columns will eventually drop off. We only had in the past 1 nursing column, but we actually have 3 different types of nurses: LPN, RN, and BSN, and or ADN and BSN. Sorry. So we now have developed that to be able to attract. It's very hard on the old schedule to attract nursing staff of the quality we're looking for. So anyhow, on page 7 is the administrative multipliers. The local school multipliers on page 8. And then the coaching supplements. The coaching supplements is way over due for an update. We do cap all the coaching supplements. This will make us competitive. Let's look at the bottom portion of that page. It says if you make the playoffs, you get $250 incentive pay. You have to win the district championship to get the next one. You have to win the state championship to get the next one after that. This allows the coaches, I always have a motto of pay what you want. If you want state championships, pay for them and give them incentives to make it there. The last page, page 10, is all the hourly pay. And also part-time, long-term long-term non-certified teachers are on this page. Tutors, I have taken the minimum wage from $7.25 to $9. Honestly, you cannot hire hardly anybody out there for $7.25. It's just $9 is the minimum I'm paying everybody. So that was an internal choice. I think it's reasonable. Personally, I have a Smoothie King that I run. You can't hire anybody for less than $9 an hour of any quality. And so that's what I'm trying to create efficiencies, as Dr. Eloy brought out, but also better quality employees. So how much is this all going to cost us? It's $3,050,000. That includes all the benefits and everything that match to it. Next question would be, how are we going to pay for it? We found $1.17 million in last year, our Medicaid reimbursements were $564,000. This year and all coming years, they're going to be around $1.682 million. There was some things that were being left off in the past that me and Quan Sanders, who's new over there in special ed, and we submitted it. We actually had to call Medicaid. Are you sure we're going to get our money now? It's $1.6 million. And Greg, the guy who does finances, did we approve it? I said, yes, sir. He said, you're getting it. This is a significant importance right there. Also, we have some other ways we're reorganizing some things to create efficiencies. I'm able to almost absorb with all these changes and creating more efficiencies within our, the way we staff, the way we do things like submit for all our Medicaid money. The cost to the district, believe it or not, and I have gone through every single employee. We have 684 full-time employees. And we have about 150 to 200 part-time. I went through every single one of them, one by one. And this should only cost the district $26,000. Now that is hard to believe, and I know, but I do actually have the numbers to back it up. We are able to roll out $3 million in raises, and that includes the benefits, adding on to those numbers. And we will have 500,000 of that will be borne by the federal programs, which they already pay for that anyhow. And the rest, the 2.5 million, will be on general budget. But with the additional Medicaid money and the other efficiencies we're encountering, it's only an extra $26,000 in expense to the general budget. Dr. Eloy pulls me in, Lee, are you sure about that now? It even gets me worried. The answer is yes. I am completely confident and have gone over these numbers with Chad to see if I'm screwball with everything I'm coming up with, but these numbers do check out.
3.3?
3,050,000.
50,000, that's loaded.
That's with benefits included.
All right.
Now, of that, 533,000 is being paid for. The federal programs, they'll just pick up the extra pay. And then 1.117 million comes from the extra Medicaid reimbursement, and the others is due to other areas of efficiencies we're going to find through natural attrition and through other areas that we're working on with master schedule work.
Mr. Walston, real quick, I do want to, because when we rolled out the salary schedules, and I know we haven't voted and we won't vote until Tuesday, or y'all won't vote until Tuesday, but it's very important to highlight. If you are if y'all vote this through, if you're a 12-month employee, you will see this in your August paycheck. If you are a 9-month employee, which the vast majority of our employees are 9-month
12-month employees, July check. 12-month
Yeah, I'm
employees,
sorry.
July, not August.
Correct. Our 9-month employees will not see this change until that September paycheck. So it goes into effect for the fiscal year starting July 1, but they don't see the change until September. I just want to make sure that's heard and reiterated multiple times.
Okay, so quick question. Does Medicaid ever, or we do any back payments from?
I've asked that question. No, they won't pay for it.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we've left money on the table for years. And we're now going to take it. Greg, I can't remember his last name. He said, you need to come down to see my thing. You've left another $200,000 on the table too. He thinks our number should be around 1.8 million. Based on the size of our district and his experience at other districts of similar size, he thinks we're leaving more money on the table. So I'm running down to take his seminar.
Well, I want to tell you on behalf of District 6 that I represent, and Dr. Eloy as well, thank you so much for finding this. And I know it builds public trust and awe at this point that we've left that much money on the table in years past, and you guys found a way to recover and move on. And that's incredible. And our teachers will benefit from that.
Yes.
Everyone.
Everybody will get a raise.
That was what I needed. That was my question, was for everybody to understand it. This is every single employee. in the school
Every
district.
employee, not just teachers, every employee.
Except us.
Y'all are actually off the list, that's
Yes.
great.
11 people off the list, 12, right?
And we're fine with that. Now, I do want to bring to your attention too, Ms. Palmer has 8 slept and breathed teacher pay raises. Anytime we spent a nickel anywhere, she wants to know why we can't give that to teachers. So I know you have to be happy down there.
We're all happy.
Yeah, we are.
The
And I know that's
vast
been her
majority
passion.
of this money will be teachers, because the vast majority of our employees is teachers.
Okay, and just so the
Ms.
public,
Phelps,
I'm
I
sorry.
know many of y'all have talked to teachers this year. We have asked more of them, and I'm not talking about COVID. Many of the practices we're doing, whether it be clusters or things of that nature, when their workload is increased. And so we want to show them that when that happens, we're not just sitting there in our ivory tower, not thinking about them. And so this is in response to that, but it's also, again, to attract and retain. I want to keep saying that word, retain, because we have some amazing teachers. And we know a lot of people are leaving the profession, but we're hoping that some of this can help to keep our good folks.
Y'all saw the starting pay was 40,000. Oh, there's another big problem we have in this district with our old schedule. Nobody knows what's going on with the sales tax check y'all give out. What the hell? What's going on with this? I don't understand this. Forget it. Well, this schedule has a line right underneath the base pay, estimated sales tax. It is very conservative as well. It's based on a 25% increase, capped at the highest paid teacher. But when you go recruiting, it's like this difficult conversation you have to have. Yes, I know we say 40,000, but your W-2 will actually be 50,000. You know, so but now this actually discloses it. And one thing I'll say, Kathy Noel looked at this. She's the one who comes to us as a consultant, but knows everything about the DeSoto Parish salary schedule. She says, you know, for the first time, I finally understand your sales tax problem, your sales tax collection. Y'all add that to the base pay, but y'all pay twice a year. And I went, yes. Well, now I kind of have a good idea of what I would really be getting. And this is so much more clear. Yes.
There's also another reason to, and we are great admirers of the school system of DeSoto. Our starting teacher salary will be equal to DeSoto Parish with this salary schedule. And that is a huge thing in terms of recruitment.
And with the cost of gasoline driving that far every day.
Exactly.
There we go.
Another thing I like about what Mr. Watson's plan is, he was telling me that, this would be something that be looked at on a year-to-year basis.
I would like to, about this time of year, I'd like to have the board approve it every year. We're gonna make adjustments and and y'all, this doesn't need to be something we do once every 14 years, because everybody's scared about it. We can actually get it done.
So that's the other thing, that this has not been done since 2008, is that?
Actually, it looks like the bulk of it, what's that?
Probably earlier.
I think it was actually 2006 or 7.
Okay.
But they did do a readoption of the exact same thing in 2010, but they didn't make any changes. Also, there were some interesting things going on. Natalie's still here? Yes. Well, look, if Natalie, you've been here a while, your last 5 years of working for us, you only got a $50 a year raise. I mean, I got the schedule if you want to look at it, but if you don't really delve into it, it's kind of insulting to stay with us because you get last year's pay plus $50. I spent time really trying to make sure that I got all that fixed.
I'll say this, as a principal, it was, yes, you got more money, but you also became a 12-month employee, so it was kind of like, we're just gonna pay you to work through the summer. It's kind of how the math worked out.
It is true.
So this really, honestly, it encourages people to go into administration. You get teachers that stay in the system so long that they would literally lose money if they applied to become an administrator. So, and this prevents that.
You work longer, because we were not, there are a few groups of teachers that they're gonna see that we actually were never paying them more for the extra hours they were putting in. And this fixes all of that. This is a significant change, trust me.
And Mr. Walston, it's important, he and I have both spoken about this, between the rising costs in healthcare and obviously inflation, without giving any increases to our people, they're literally making less year after year, so.
Yes. So I present to you guys hundreds of hours worth of work. I hope that y'all see the significance of it. I'm committed to telling y'all it will only cost us a minor amount of money to implement this salary schedule.
Well, thank you for your tireless efforts. And I know the community is going to be very, very excited to see that we are actually being good stewards of the taxpayers' money and rewarding our teachers as they should be.
It feels good to find this money and hand it to the entire staff of the school board.
And we will applause again on Tuesday. And I'm sure anyone would be unelected and run out of town if you vote no. No re-election for you.
Well, I just don't know what the risk is. This just doesn't cost us anything, and it's a significant change.
And speaking of recognizing all the extra efforts that our faculty and staff have been, giving over the last 2 years, I'd like you to come up and talk about 9B, the codes of compensation.
Sure. Do you want to take this, Dr. Eloy?
I'll take the real quick part, and then you I'm style, your substance. So, the COVID compensation, last year we gave $1,000, and we had those little rules about when you started and how many days. This year we've upped to $1,500 because we do believe that this year was a more difficult year for our staff. We had more people out, which meant that teachers lost off hours. They had to cover each other's classes. They had to do things that they did not normally have to do in non-COVID years. We heard it time and time again, and it wasn't complaints. It was just facts. And our people have worked tirelessly. Again, they have not complained, and so I'm so excited that we are going to be able to move that $1,000 to $1,500. We're not going to give you a date because our payroll department is working tirelessly to make this happen. I'm going to use the words as soon as humanly possible. So I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I'm thinking within the, between March and April, but we're just gonna kind of leave it there, and then when it arrives in that checking account, it's gonna be a Christmas gift come in the spring. But there are some little nuances to it. Mr. Waston may want to talk about the prorating nature of if you missed or not. Again, COVID absences do not count towards your absences on this.
So the only leave time that counts against you is leave time other than COVID. The COVID leave does not go against you in this calculation. Last time we gave out, the top number was $1,050. It cost us around $1.3 million. I want to reiterate, this goes to everybody. This isn't just the teachers. It's not just the administration. It is everybody, pretty much a flat number based on these calculations, but most everybody's going to receive around the $1,500 if they've been employed with us since August. Almost all of them will. Actually, I can't, unless they've had a lot of absences, there's no reason why they wouldn't receive this. It's $1,500. It's custodians, food service, it's everybody. Okay? And it is one flat amount. It's not based on your level of pay or degrees or anything else. It's just everybody. Because everybody experienced this at the same rate. The COVID experience, experienced COVID at an equal basis. So you will see that we have it broken down. This is exactly the same document with just the dates changed and some numbers that Chad and I worked on to make sure everything was fair and equitable as we rolled it out, that we adopted last May, I think it was, for June, and we put that money out in June. So we're hoping within the next 4 weeks or so, but before the end of April, we will have this to you.
But we're not given an exact date, correct? So
Dr. Eloy so much wanted me to do it, but let me tell you what we're up against. We're not working last week of March. We have to do regular payroll at that point. I'm just saying, it's a tremendous
I'm just saying
amount.
for the public consumption, we're not given a date in this meeting, so there's no need to check in. I hate to say it like that.
Oh, to check in.
Yes, there's no reason to check in. But also,
Check in after April 30th. Start checking in after April
if you don't
30th,
have it
but
by May
it will
1st,
be
let us
there.
know.
It will be
But real
there.
quick, this does not penalize late females, ladies who had babies,
No,
right? 'Cause
we're very sensitive to that. That does not penalize for that.
well, we did last year and had to correct it, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, that's another thing is that we spend. Will there probably be some mistakes? Yes, but we'll just go and correct it and pay the money properly.
Perfect.
We had to do that. It happens all the time. It's just you have 800 employees. It's likely you'll make a few mistakes because this is unusual. It has its own rules. But yes, we did eventually have to write 10 or 15 checks after we put out the last round to make up for what we missed in some cases. But this is about cost of ESSER funds. We're not paying for it out of general, but it's cost of ESSER funds of about $2 million worth of payroll going out. So.
That's great news. I know everyone will be appreciative.
Is there anything else about this? Because it's pretty much a repeat, but a bigger number than last time. So.
Okay. 9C, relocation incentive.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Kozak, can you let me share my screen real quick? Okay, let's see. You should have this flyer also in your, oh, I'm not getting this across the way I need to. Okay, there we go. This flyer is something that there's some schools across the nation doing this with their ESSER funds. When y'all hired me, one of the major issues was recruiting certified teachers, specifically recruiting certified teachers to some of our hard to staff schools. When we look at our hard to staff schools, those would be specifically LP Vaughan, Weaver, East, NJH, NPTCC, and Lakeview. So what we've done is we've taken some of our ESSER funds and we are telling people that if they relocate to our schools from out of district,
we will pay them anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 for that relocation. If it's on a increasing scale, so if they are fresh out of college and they want to come to us and they choose us over another parish, it would be $5,000. If they have 3 years of experience and it's effective on CIR or the CIS data, $7,500, and then it goes up until we get to $15,000. We know that whether it be the raise, the COVID compensation, all these things we're doing, we believe we can keep our excellent teachers here, but that still leaves a gap where we need to bring in some more people. Again, that thing I mentioned to you earlier, getting the best people in front of our students, because our students deserve the best. So this is a means to attract outside folks, probably within maybe 100-mile to 150-mile radius. We start our ad campaign on the day after y'all vote on the 15th, so on the 16th and 17th, we start our ad campaign. And this is a major thing that we believe is going to bring in some of these certified teachers to reduce that number of non-certified teachers even more so in the parish. And so we're really excited about this. This does require, this is all, again, using ESSER money, but this is something that we definitely believe that the board would need to approve. And I can stop sharing. Stop sharing, there we go. Questions, comments, concerns on relocation stipend?
How could this impact a teacher that is currently serving as an uncertified teacher at one of our schools, and then they complete their certification process, say, over the summer?
You know, that's actually a really good question that I tend to always want to, as Ms. Page says, you know, she's personnel and she always stops it with person L. I would always want to lean on the side of that person, you know, incentivize what we want, like Mr. Wascom said. We have not had that specific conversation, but that is something we can definitely by the Tuesday voting meeting to have at y'all's disposal. Because what I'm assuming you're asking, Ms. Broadway, is would they be able to benefit from this stipend?
Yes.
By the fact that they, over the summer, got certified. My initial reaction is to want to honor that and give them that benefit. But I'd want to have a discussion with the staff and bring y'all that to the plan, because that honestly was not something we had discussed.
Thank you.
This, also, the CIR pay is still in place.
Correct.
In addition to all this, so it's a new salary schedule, it's this relocating, and the CIR pay is also in place with this.
And you know, a lot of people ask, why don't we, they want to know why we don't send our best teachers to our schools that have the most need, and that Ms. Page will tell you a long dissertation on why that's difficult. But this is us putting our money where our mouth is. We are telling people, if you come to the schools with the most challenging situations in the lowest SPS, then we're going to reward you, because those jobs in many cases can prove more difficult. And we want to honor that, and we feel this, you know, we talk about equity and doing what's right for all students. This is one of those actions that our board can say we are really treating all of our students, no matter their background or their socioeconomics, we're treating them with equity.
Add to your discussion list, Dr. Eloy, what if the teacher wants to transfer to one of those schools, an existing teacher?
So they would be, what the staff decided on that, we had robust conversations about that. We decided that they would be able to utilize the CRR payments, but we believe that that would be a process that could cause some unintended consequences. So although it was part of the initial conversation, we have not included them in the relocation stipend. And that is also why we call it relocation stipend, because we are expecting to bring people in from outside. And, you know, part of moving, you know, getting a new down payment on a house or purchasing some new furniture, we see it as an investment in that move, and that's kind of the thinking behind it. But we did have a lot of discussion on that very matter.
So just to kind of clarify, are you saying that a new hire, and this may be something that you need to discuss, so number one, a new hire would be receiving the relocation and the CIR funding if they go to one of the designated schools?
Correct.
And as far as my question regarding teachers who are uncertified but complete the certification process prior to the start of the school year, that's the discussion that you will have with staff and have that information for us Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am. The difference there being that that person is moving from part-time to full-time, so that's a little bit different than I believe what Mr. Benefield was asking. But we are going to have a discussion about that in preparation for Tuesday.
Okay. And I think you shared with us at the workshop about when those funds would be distributed to the new hires.
Thank you. We have a contract from Hammond's, Atkins, Seals, and guys. They would sign a 2-year contract to stay at that school, and they would receive that money up front. That would be an upfront payment, a one-time upfront payment.
Because it really fits in with the spirit of what it's supposed to do, is to assist in the relocation process.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right, well, let's move on to 9D, the 2022-2023 school calendar. And Dr.
Yes,
Malloy?
so I want to take y'all through something very quickly, the guiding principles of how we created our calendar. And that is in your board docs. There were about 10 items. First, everything we did with our calendar had to support improving student achievement. Secondly, how does this change to the calendar support improving student achievement? We have to ask that every time we change something up. Furthermore, we have to have 63,720 minutes. That's a Bulletin 741 item. It's the law. We have to have 385 minutes of instructional time per day, which equals to 64,680 instructional minutes per year. At 168 instructional days, that's the minimum. Instructional days plus professional development plus parent-teacher conference is going to be 176 days. Semesters need to be balanced. You need equal amount of days or as close to in the fall as you do in the spring, and that's to help support your high schools and things of that nature, because it gets a little difficult when those don't match. We also decided we want at least 2.5 days for emergencies and weather. This year we used none. Previous year we used 12, although that was an outlier. And then we wanted instructional time not to get chopped up with holidays. So we wanted to really make it to where you would have a full 9 weeks and then have your holidays. We also wanted to work to maintain ending the fall semester for high school students prior to the Christmas break. And then also we had there's an obscure law that just passed that said we had to put the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even numbered years as a holiday for elections. Typically that's only in presidential years, but they've since changed that to where it now had to be in all even numbered years. So what we did, our process, first off, we sent out a survey to our folks and got a lot of information back. And a lot of it was things of can we have Christmas break more before or more after? Can we align with NSU? A lot of things that were very specific to maybe a specific family and things of that nature. But we still try to take as much of that as possible. Then we brought in a group of principals that were elected by their peers to speak on their behalf, and we got all their feedback and input. And from that meeting, we created 2 calendars. Either calendar we would have been happy with, but there were some minor differences. From there, each principal sent a teacher representative, a staff representative actually, to the district office, and we showed them both calendars and got feedback from them, and then sent them back with the 2 calendars, and then those people, not the principals, those employees presented to their staff, and then everyone voted. I am presenting to you tonight calendar option A, because calendar option A received 53% of the vote. So it was relatively close. But as I told everyone that through this process, we would only offer to you what the staff majority voted on. And that is calendar option A, which you have in your board docs. I don't know if Mr. Kozad can display that or not, but you can look at it. It's very balanced between the fall and spring semesters. Basically, every 9 weeks, you will go to school for 9 weeks, a full 9 weeks. You'll have a parent-teacher conference, and then you'll have a week off. You'll still have your Christmas break, your Thanksgiving break, all those things, but it's very, the term I keep using is it's symmetrical. And it makes sense for everything we have to do in terms of data and follow-up and feedback. I'm also excited because I believe that coincidentally, this calendar does align relatively closely with NSU, which I know will make a lot of folks happy as well.
Dr. Eloy, I would just like to emphasize, I know you've used the term balanced quite a bit, but I know I've had some concerns about moving to a balanced calendar, and that is not what you mean by balanced, correct?
Correct.
Right.
A balanced calendar in the vernacular of Louisiana right now means year-round. We are not.
Right.
We are not going year-round, and that's why I'm calling this calendar symmetrical. It is, it's even between the fall and spring semesters, and I should probably stop using that term balance because it is, there's been so much reporting of, I believe, Rapides and Red River even, but theirs is a year-round balanced calendar. Ours will not be year-round. It's not balanced in that regard.
Thank you.
Why so many days, the purpose of all the days in October? Because you got.
I'm sorry, can you say
all the
that?
days in October, you got, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8 days they're gonna be off there, unless I'm reading it wrong. Because you got 2 parent-teacher conference, then you're out a week, and then you got, professional develop, you know, that's.
The kids are there on that Thursday, on the Thursday when the kids are there all day. They're just not there on the Friday.
But still, what's the purpose of all them days of being off?
Yeah, well, again, that October break, we actually had that 2 years ago. We had 5 days off in a row. This year we went down to 3. So it's in line with trying to get that, that parent-teacher conference early on.
Actually, you have 7 days off in a row if you're gonna be off on the 7th, and then let's see. Cause that Friday, you're gonna be, the kids gonna be gone, and then you're off a whole week, and then you come back on, the 17th, they're gonna have a professional develop day, so you're having, 7 days off in a row there.
Yes, sir. So that's the end of that first quarter break. So it's that first, it's that first holiday after a 9 weeks. We're still taking the same amount of days off. We're just trying to put those days at the same time so they're not spread out throughout the year. So it may look like a lot off at once, which I guess it would be more so than usual, but it's, again, trying to consolidate days off so we don't have choppy where when you look at it, as many weeks as possible where we have a full 5 days. So you will see weeks off at once, but then again, that's to make it to where we have as many Monday through Fridays as possible.
You know, because I was saying all these days in October, and then we're gonna be starting, the 5th of August, we're starting the first part of August, you know, and that's the hottest part of the school year in August. And why not, if we take them days and come down in August, and start late on in the year?
Well, in order to get the fall to match the spring, you had to start a little earlier, but that only puts us, I believe last year we started August 9th. So it only puts us, students' first day is the 5th, so it's only 4 days backwards from the year prior. But I do understand that August is the hot month.
And then you got all these days off in December, just about 3 weeks off for Christmas. You know, what's the purpose of that?
Well, you come back in January on Friday. It doesn't make sense to come back on one day on Friday.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, half the children, they will come back on just that Friday.
Yeah. Well, if you look at all the days in December,
is anything actually gonna happen on the, the 20th and 21st?
Well, and the reason for that is because you're ending your semester there. Now, in January, the reason you come back on that Thursday, and I know there's a principal in the room, typically what we want to do is we want to acclimate the kids back on that one day and then start fresh for a full week. That's the thinking behind it.
And with high school students, they'll come back and get their schedule that day, because they're
Correct.
going to whole new different classes. So for a high school student, I come in on that Friday, I get my schedule, I find my new classroom that may be in a totally different part of Lakeview or Natchitoches Central, and now that Monday, I know where I'm going, class starts on time, and for us and for little people, following every break, we spend a day or a part of a day doing routines and procedures. We have to review with a 5-year-old, this is what we do to go to the bathroom, this is how we go to the cafeteria. That one day on a Friday allows us to do that without losing a whole week. Mr. Multiplier, you don't mind, and if y'all don't mind, I want to speak to that October break. This was on the calendar two years ago, and we used it as a huge tool to recruit teachers. When you tell a teacher you're going to get 9 weeks and then a full week off in October, that October break is probably the most refreshing break for a teacher, really and truly. Christmas is hard to get to, and certainly the end of the year. That first 9 weeks of school teaching, Ms. Hicks can speak to this, coming out of the classroom a few years ago, that October break just hits you a little bit different. And I understand that it is a long time for parents. I have 4 kids. I mean, I'm going to be back up at school on professional development day, and my kids are going to be home. But from a teacher recruitment standpoint and a professional development standpoint, where we're aligning testing students or assessing students to look at how they're progressing, that's what those professional development days are going to be used for. So this isn't going to be hey, so I think we're going to have a professional development on school safety. It's, hey, these kids just took this assessment. Let's look at this data. Let's see where they are. Let's make decisions. So I know it seems like a lot, but they all serve a purpose. They are not haphazardly put on the calendar by any means.
What I was saying in that October, if you would take them days and lessening August, you wouldn't have as many days until you would get down to the Thanksgiving break. We starting further and further in the year where it's hotter and hotter. I know a lot of teachers would say they would love they could take a few vacations the first 2 weeks of August if we would start further down than because both of them ain't gonna take a vacation in the middle of October.
If we start later in August, the only problem with that is that we can't get in our 2 semesters by the Christmas break, which makes it very difficult for the high schools. So again, it's trying to put our holidays all together so that 9 weeks or the 4 and 4.5 and 4.5, that you're getting clumps of time with no interruption. Then you can do your PD, your parent teacher. So it is all together, but it's all together for a strategic purpose to not have disruptions during the 9-week period.
And I would just like to say, I do remember that when we did something very similar to this 2 years ago, and we had kind of like that big 1 week long fall break, I had principals and teachers tell me how much they appreciated and needed that time. So I know when I saw it on the calendar, I was excited to be able to consider giving that back. I think it's kind of like a really great mental health break week.
And we heard a lot, Ms. Broadway, this year about how there was some upset folks about that not being the full 5 days. That they definitely felt that they didn't get the full effect from that, I guess.
Well, actually, they'd be getting 7 full days there. Because the kids would be getting 7 full days.
Yes, sir. Just
and then in January, where she say come back on that Friday to get their schedule, why they can't get their schedule before they get out for Christmas, because they don't have school, so it ain't gonna make no difference if they come on a Friday, if they get it the week before they get out of for Christmas, because they ain't got school. So that to me, the kids is not gonna come that Friday, and why are we having so many days? You just want to say that's 3 weeks, and then you out, then you come back a week, and then you out another day with that. You know, that's just a lot of days is taken off that first we used to say it was with because of the test, and now we're saying because of, you know, to match the same semester with the days, but, you know, we started getting early and early and late in May, and then, you know, with all these days off, and I've always, you know, they always say they would rather start later than, you know, than all these days off in the year.
And again, I mean, I don't disagree with you, Mr. Retard, but that is why we brought it to all the staff. And the other calendar was about 4 or 5 days later. But I made a pledge in this, because I mean, I have my personal preferences, which I'm not sharing, but 53% versus 47% did choose this one versus the one that did have a later start date, so.
Dr. Eloy, do you mind answering the question? The other calendar that did not went out, did that include a full week for fall break as well?
It did not.
It did not, okay. Echoing what Ms. Broadway said, I did hear from multiple parents, teachers, principals when we did have that full week, and it was much needed. It was. And I just think with all the exhaustive effort that was put in deciding between the two calendars, I just feel like we should honor the one that the majority picked.
Yeah, y'all said that this aligns with, more closely with Northwestern's schedule?
That is what I've been told. It's not completely aligned because they do their calendar like 4 years in advance. But I've been told that there's several holidays that align more closely than previously.
It might impose a financial, increased financial cost for the parents when they're accustomed to the 2 weeks for December compared to nearly 3. Looking at a total of 18 days, that's including the weekends. And I know it's a good break, but that's nearly 3 weeks in looking at daycare costs for the parents. And I understand that the teachers and school staff would love to have that type of time frame in December to January, but there's some costs, there'll be more costs imposed on the parents. That's a concern there.
And I understand that we're saying 3 weeks, but it's actually, because one of those parent-teacher conference days, I think is a half day, so we're really looking at 12 days there. But I mean, spread out over 3 different weeks, understood, but just want to make that clarification.
I think when we get ready to make this decision, we need to give consideration to the parents and the cost it's going to be to them.
Do we have any other questions or comments about the calendar? All right, well, let's move on to 9E, masking on school buses.
Yes, ma'am. So the CDC recently came out and they have changed their guidance, saying that if a school district has a low or medium community risk level, which Natchitoches has a medium community risk level, they no longer have to mask on buses. Based on our previous conversations in terms of COVID mitigation efforts, I wanted this to be a board action, not a unilateral action by myself. As I told you, we had 0 cases of COVID this week in our students and in our staff. So, you know, I've talked to several superintendents, both at LSBA and at NIAT. The majority of school districts in the state of Louisiana are moving to optional masking on buses. Based on the CDC guidance. This isn't a gubernatorial thing or anything like that. This is CDC. So I think it is, you know, as we've learned every week during this pandemic, every day seems like we're shifting. And it does seem like it's perhaps time for a shift in masking on buses. But I will just tell you the CDC guidance and the fact that we have such low numbers, and let the board make that decision.
Any questions, comments about that? All right, that concludes the executive report.
Before we go, anyone want to speak on that? Dr. Eloy, do you want to speak on the advertisement for the IPAC meeting that we were handed by Ms. for Ms. Ashley.
I'm sorry, Mr. Boothville, is that the ITEP meeting?
It's the parent
No,
advisory
parent,
council.
yeah.
Oh, the IPAC, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's Ms. Calhoun's initiative. We're always trying to get more parents involved. I'll be honest with you, I don't have that on my person right now, so I'm not sure of the exact date, but if y'all would like to reference that, and then we're also going to do a social media push. I think that would be a good thing to
It's
remind
March
everyone what date
15th.
and time.
March 15th, 11 a.m. to 12. And so it's a Zoom meeting, so just want to mention it. We had it on our desk.
Yes, sir, we're always looking for more people to join that team. People from elementaries, junior highs, high schools, folks with gifted children, regular education, special education. We need all a diverse group of opinions so we can have a good conversation about where the district needs to go.
Okay, so before we adjourn, Pastor Harris did text and say the final score to the Lakeview game was 73-69 and a meet won. So be thinking about our Gator fans tonight. And then also we want to remind everybody the next meeting is Tuesday the 15th at 5 o'clock, a little bit different this month.
And also, if you would, I have 2 forms on each of your spots, if you get those to me at the latest Tuesday. But if you have them ready tonight or have any questions, I will take those after the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Rebels. Meeting is adjourned.
I know, I get out.
No, one's a good, one's a good. One leadership.